So we've gone bad, good, bad. So let's see if they can redeem themselves for the next aircraft, the SUNSHARK. Now the SUNSHARK is a Tau atmospheric bomber. It's capable of blasting targets with its primary armament, the pulse bomb generator, and includes secondary systems such as interceptor drones to intercept enemy aircraft and missile pods to protect the aircraft from aircraft and provide supporting fire. In addition to this, the drones may be exchanged for additional thrusters and quad-ion turrets. Now, the SUNSHARK also shares the same basis as the RAZORSHARK, which we'll take a look at later on.
Interesting. This one actually flies and has no issues with its design for both purposes of flying and combat. It's remarkably well designed. Flying at 400 kilometers an hour, it has a lift-to-drag ratio of 0.49, which makes it surprisingly agile and falls into the lift-to-drag range of post-World War II aircraft. Technically, the SUNSHARK could potentially reach speeds of up to 1,800 kilometers an hour, which we did before the frame was actually under enough stress that we had to stop the testing, i.e., it started bowing just a little bit.
Oh.
The vehicle with its wingspan would only require 103.7 kilonewtons to reach this speed, which is significantly lower than most modern aircraft. It's actually able to reach its top speed of 1,800 kilometers an hour at a lower thrust rate than an F-16, which the F-16 is actually lighter. Furthermore, it will have some trouble turning. It has no vertical tail fins to speak of. This means that it can't turn itself on its side to use its elevators to turn, and it can't use its tail fins to turn vertically. Sorry. It's just not going to be able to go left and right. So, horizontal access fail.
Well, at least it flies.
It flies, it just isn't going to turn very often.
No.
Or it's going to be very, very slow. This vehicle's firepower is unique for a bomber. I say this because all other aircraft that we've examined that are bombers have limited ammo before they have to return to rearm. The SUNSHARK doesn't have a limited ammo supply. The vehicle can generate a pulse bomb so long as its engines are running powerful enough to create the electricity necessary to generate plasma and electricity to make the bomb. Oh yes, and the pulse bomb works, by the way. If you superheat plasma and surround it with polarized electrical arcs, you can actually control its shape so long as you can maintain the electricity. And if you put enough electrical force into it, the electricity will stay with it for up to 30 seconds after you release it from the device you're carrying it in. Meaning that 30 seconds is more than enough time to drop it out of an aircraft at 20,000 feet and it hit the ground. Upon hitting the ground, the electricity will be grounded into the ground, while the plasma will then dissipate with explosive force. This actually works as a weapon. And all you need is a big generator to keep generating the plasma from the air around it and the electricity needed to make the bomb, which you can generate the electricity using the engine of the aircraft.
Well, there you go. That's how I've done something right in regards to these
I'm
aircraft.
surprised by that. Like, it actually works.
Yeah.
However, this thing will not react very well to hits at all. Its rear section is held stable by metal bars that are incredibly thin that are stretched from the front to rear wings. The aircraft has virtually no armor to speak of, and I would suspect it relies on speed maneuverability to avoid damage, as one decent hit probably sheared something off. However, please remember, it doesn't turn.
So yeah, it's going to be pretty easy to hit it if it can't turn. Well, as easy as it is to hit something traveling that fast.
I mean, it makes a great close-range support aircraft because with plasma being the way it is contained within electricity, it's not affected by wind shear. So
True.
You literally just drop the bomb at the pre-designated spot, and wind is not going to affect where it goes. It's just going to be gravity and planetary rotation plus the velocity of the aircraft. You factor out one of the biggest factor, wind, when it comes to which way the bombs fall. Good job!
Let's see if they can keep up the good job. Next up, the RAZORSHARK. Now, the RAZORSHARK is an atmospheric strike fighter based on the SUNSHARK design. However, it forgoes the pulse bomb generator and interceptor drone in favour of additional thrusters for increased manoeuvrability, as well as a quad-ion turret mounted in the rear that can turn light vehicles into rubble, wrecks, whatever. It also includes nose-mounted burst cannon and seeker missiles stored in internal launch bays.
Okay, there's no difference in the flight characteristics or durability compared to the SUNSHARK. I am going to say this, if they figured out how to make this thing turn, it would be the most lethal dogfighter we've ever met. The quad ion turret makes up for the ion cannon's low rate of fire by giving it 4 guns. Using this, you could literally fire in an air-to-air dogfight at a rate that would be possible to dogfight, and since it's an ion cannon that fires ionized particles, they're not subject to the law of drop-off. Which means that you just shoot at your target and hope you lead your target properly enough to hit it, rather than worrying about if gravity's going to pull your bullets away. The extra burst cannon and seeker missiles are actually useful for air-to-air combat, because I saw a variant of this that has its own marker light.
Ooh.
Literally meaning it is the first aircraft that we have discussed that can engage targets in air-to-air combat at roughly 3 kilometers of range, which is the actual distance that you would expect to be able to engage in air-to-air combat in a modern combat situation. It's the first aircraft we've talked about that has air-to-air missiles. Beyond that, just like the previous SUNSHARK, it has the same flight characteristics. I really hope they figured out a way to compensate for not having a vertical tail fin, because if they did, then this thing is a ridiculous dogfighter. But otherwise, it has the same flight characteristics: 1,800 kilometers per hour in level flight. Same amount of thrust required to get it off the ground, possibly less, because I suspect without the pulse bomb generator it actually weighs less, until I factor in the fact that it has a quad ion cannon turret and a 0.49 lift to drag ratio. It actually flies well, it just doesn't turn.
Okay, so we got 2 in a row so far. Can we make it a hat trick? The TIGERSHARK. Now, the TIGERSHARK is essentially a larger version of the Barracuda and is deployed in a fighter-bomber role. Now, despite being essentially a bomber, it doesn't actually carry any bombs. Instead, it carries 14 gun drones within it. In addition to these gun drones, it also is armed with ion cannons and missile pods, as well as the mandatory drone-controlled burst cannons.
This has the same problem of the Barracuda. Huge underbelly, incredibly short wings, generate negative lift. It can't fly. It literally just can't. We tried it out in the wind tunnel and couldn't get enough air under the aircraft to generate lift. What you really have here is a giant rocket car with wings.
Now we're doing so well.
If it does fly, it only flies because a tornado picked it up and then you hit the engines while it was in the air. So in theory, you could use 4 manta rays all facing away from each other, put a bunch of TIGERSHARKs in the middle of them, and see if that's enough wind force to throw it in the air.
So, line up the manta rays, right, hit the button, boom, and a bunch of TIGERSHARKs go flying into the air, spinning around.
These are the largest caliber ion cannons we've seen. Though I imagine ion cannons caliber doesn't actually make much of a difference, because it's still an energy shot and you can just up the amount of energy coming out of the barrel so long as you don't overheat the barrel. However, this thing is not going to be useful for dogfighting. It lacks the extra missiles and extra point defense systems of the Barracuda. Beyond that, it's the same as the first aircraft we reviewed, the Barracuda. It has armor and an ejection system. It lacks a lot of the things that other races' aircraft have, and it doesn't actually fly.
What about its drone deployment role?
Yes, the ability to deploy TOW drones, since they operate completely autonomously, is kind of what makes this thing a little scary. It seems more like it's a terrorization weapon. You fly over the enemy lines, deploy a bunch of drones in the middle of the night, and then just let the drones do their work of causing havoc. It's also a very much fire and forget system. You just deploy the drones, and when you catch up to them, they're obviously programmed to be smart enough not to shoot you. I could also see them dropping this as a suicide assault, where the drones are dropped on top of a command bunker with the programming of go in the command bunker and kill everything. That is, of course, if it can fly.
Yes. And speaking of the drones, the last aircraft we're going to take a look at this week is the RELORA drone fighter, which is a stealth drone fighter. Now, these are equipped with a stealth field generator and are armed with twin-linked long-barreled burst cannons for aerial combat and 2 seeker missiles for ground attack, and are also equipped with targeting arrays and a networked marker light. Now, the RELORA has a short range and is carried into battle underneath a TIGERSHARK or in the back of a Manta.
So the first thing I have to clarify here is stealth in this case is not stealth in the same way that we have stealth aircraft. The TAL version of the stealth system is more of an active camouflage system. It's visually stealthy. Its camouflage system adjusts so that you see it and you see the same overlapping design of what should be behind it. That does not mean, however, that radar will not bounce off of it and pick it up. It may have radar absorbing plates on it, but otherwise, no, this is not quote unquote the stealth in terms of stealth aircraft. Think of this as more like the Predator. This is a drone. This is a drone that can fly. This is a drone that can fly very fast. Okay, now that I've done the third grader version of this, the RELORA has similar flight characteristics to an actual Predator drone. Its engine would not have to be very powerful at all to make it lift off the ground. At 400 kilometers an hour, it had a lift to drag of 0.22. This means that since the vehicle weighs 2 tons, it would require very little to stay up in the air. 2 tons times 0.22 times 0.98 for gravity times 1,000 to do the conversion from kilonewtons to newtons is 4,312 newtons. This is about the same amount of force issued by 4 diesel engine locomotives. That's right, you could hook up a 4-engine train and pull this behind it and make it fly like a kite.
Huh.
Also with its flight, oddly enough, it's actually the first TAL aircraft to have proper maneuverability. It can turn at an estimated 62 degrees per second, using the aerodynamic calculations based upon the hull and shape of the RELORA as well as the shape of the wings. Without a pilot, the G-forces just need not exceed the amount required to crush the computer chips inside, which would be 80 Gs. We estimate the aircraft could pull this 62 degrees a second, generating 79.1 Gs, just shy of what's required to crush a computer chip at 3,250 kilometers per hour.
Wow.
This speed estimate, by the way, came at the cost of 2 of them that I had to buy replacements for. Yes, we actually broke 2 of them in the wind tunnel. Actual painted miniatures. But at that speed, it would still only require 14.8 kilonewtons of force to stay airborne. That is roughly the same amount of lift force generated by an aircraft carrier catapult. Not the actual force that's applied to the aircraft on the catapult, mind you, just the lift in G-forces applied to the wings of the aircraft to help it get off the ground, get off the carrier. I know that's really weird to relate to, but you could also think of it this way. If we hooked up 18 diesel engines and had them all pulling it, it would achieve this speed, assuming the train engines could do that. It's remarkably simple, and it's well armed for a drone. It has about the same armament as a freaking crisis suit. But instead of hopping around, it actually flies. I honestly don't understand why this is a short-range weapon, because it's stated to have short-range characteristics to fly back to its mothership. This is clearly a long-range assault drone. You launch it from your mothership, and you just go tell it to go to X target and blow it up. They even have marker lights and are fitted with seeker missiles. They are dogfighting drones that can do more Gs than manually piloted aircraft. This is Skynet on crack.
That's one way of describing it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Tau. I really hope you enjoyed. Remleiz, is it Tyranids next week?
Yes, it is. So, something a bit different next week because we're going very organic. So,
gotta buy those new organic groceries. Aircraft.
Indeed. So overall, how did the Tau stack up against the other three races we've looked at so far?
The Tau are honestly a very mixed bag. It was very weird showing up to the wind tunnel and then having all these different models that had completely different flight characteristics, some of which clearly could not fly. One of which I had to explain to the engineers we can't actually stress test. It's a $2,000 model. And they looked at me horrified. Steven's sitting over there with his arms crossed like, yeah, I painted that. Don't break it. But yeah, I'm surprised there's such a mixed bag. Either they don't fly, they have poor maneuverability, or they built the ultimate dogfighting machine. So as far as how they stack up, if they're not flying their drones, the Eldar and Orcs have them by the throat. If they're flying their drones as dogfighting aircraft, Lord help the Orcs and the Eldar, because you're fucked.
Indeed. So, thank you everyone who joined us today. This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And this has been Fiaura, and I hope to see all of you next time.
Yes, we'll see you again then. Take care. Bye-bye.